Hey, it's Quadix here, and I'm here with part 3 of What If Naruto Wasn't Dumb. You guys smashed that like button harder than I smashed my leg on that door yesterday. So I'm here with another part. I uploaded like when I went to bed, the video. I went to bed right after the video uploaded, and that was after midnight. So I just woke up and I was like, Jesus, you guys have smashed that like button. I thank you for each and every one of you who have. If you're new here, subscribe, leave a comment Q, or any other comments you may have. It really helps the YouTube algorithm, and I appreciate it. Make sure you like that video. I respond to all comments. I just woke up and I saw the video, so I haven't finished responding to all comments, but I will do that right after this video. I hope you enjoy. Get this to 200 likes and I'll upload it tomorrow. Get this to 300 likes and I'll upload it again today. And yeah, let's get into the story. If I can find, not SAO Abridged. Oh yeah, by the way, you should check it out. SAO Abridged is pretty fire. Alright, okay. Chapter 2. Naruto smiled. You have a very nice name, Kurama. The newly dubbed Kurama smiled. Thank you. It means a lot coming from someone whose name means fish cake. Kurama smirked at the end, intentionally making the jab at Naruto's name to see if he could rile the boy up. His success was only minuscule though. Naruto only had a tiny frown on his face, instead of the full-blown childish rage Kurama was expecting. Actually, I preferred the other meaning of my name. Meal store. Is it meal store? Can someone let me know in the comment? It's Maelstrom. Mealstorm? I don't know. Is much better than being compared to a fish cake, Kurama. Kurama chuckled, a smooth, deep baritone that lit up a warm feeling inside Naruto. Naruto decided he liked Kurama's voice. Oh yeah, I don't always sound this dead, okay? Yesterday I was not feeling well at all. And today I just woke up, so my brain's not fully functioning yet. In my future videos, I will sound alive, promise. No one would think of a mealstorm when they look at you, Naruto. Perhaps when you are older, but certainly not now, Kurama teased them. Naruto shrugged, and then his eyes turned serious, making Kurama do the same. Naruto asked the Biju, Kurama, you know I have questions, right? Kurama nodded. I assumed as such. However, I expected us to meet when you were significantly older. I have to say, I was not expecting your call to me. Naruto shook his head. Well, if it makes you feel better, I was not expecting you to pull me inside my mind, he said absently, nothing that he was not wet at... What? Absently, nothing that he was not wet at all, in spite of standing and sitting in the water. Oh. Kurama returned to his earlier position, laying down, face on his paws and hands. I will do my best to answer whatever questions you have, Naruto, he assured him. Naruto gave him a nod of gratitude and sat down as well. Okay, first question. Why does my mindscape represent a gutter or a sewer? Whatever you want to call it. Kurama looked silent for a moment, after which a mischievous grin broke out on his face, exposing the sharp canines. You know what they say about people whose minds are in the gutter, right? Naruto gave him a blank look, reminding Kurama that Naruto, however intelligent for his age, was still only 5 years old. Kurama's embarrassed blush would have been visible on his face if this fair was not orange. He cleared his throat loudly to avoid embarrassment. Sorry, Naruto, but I have no idea why your mindscape is a sewer. There is a theory that says that your mindscape is a reflection of your mental state. It could have been the physiological trauma that was given to you by the villagers, but why is it particularly a sewer? I don't know, he replied. Naruto absorbed the information like a sponge, and after a few seconds, he asked Kurama, "So I have psychological trauma?" I knew about that, which means that even if I change the appearance of my mindscape to something else, there will always be something that represents the trauma, right? Kurama inclined his head in agreement, smiling a little. That's right. I have to say though, it's nice to talk to someone who is intelligent. Naruto's eyes visibly brighten up at the praise, giving a full-blown smile to his newest friend. Kurama noted with some amusement the grin looked very similar to his own and a redhead. Naruto jumped to his feet. Your answers just confirmed something for me, Kurama. His eyes had a mix of excitement and determination to them, as if he was about to do something new. Naruto closed his eyes and clapped his hands together, face scrunched up in concentration. Kurama observed him quietly, wondering what his host was about to do. Naruto snapped his eyes open after a few minutes, having envisioned what he was about to do. With a cry of "Ha!" he slammed his right hand on the ground. What happened next completely blew away his mind. A wave of energy exploded from Naruto in all directions, completely lighting up the mindscape and almost blinding Kurama. Was it chakra that exploded from him? How is that even possible when he hasn't even unlocked it yet? The pulse of chakra completely shredded everything it came into contact with. Naruto may have possibly destroyed his own mind, were the thoughts running through Kurama's head. When he opened his eyes, however, he was stupefied to a degree he didn't think was possible. His eyes were wide, his jaw was hanging, making him look quite comical. A beautiful valley greeted his eyes, grounds that were lush and shades of green that looked heavenly, streams with water cleaner than he had ever seen. The grass felt soft under his limbs, and there was a massive oak tree with a shade that made it great for naps. The cage around him had disappeared, instead replaced with a collar which had the same piece of paper from before with the kanji for seal written on it. He looked at Naruto in wonder. This kid was a package of one surprise after another. Naruto got up from his position, looking no worse for wear. Okay. He smiled satisfactorily. This is so much better than before. Wouldn't you agree, Kurama? He asked, turning to him. Kurama was smiling like he was the happiest being on earth. No one had ever done anything for him, and Naruto, who had just met him, had already done so much for him. Kurama looked at Naruto with gratitude in his eyes. Thank you, Naruto. You have no idea how much this means to me. Naruto just shook his head at him. Don't worry about it. We are friends, right? Kurama nodded, feeling excitement in a long time, waiting to explore what Naruto had created for him. He was about to leave when Naruto's voice stopped him mid-step. However, it seems strange that there is no presence of a celestial body in the sky. I had envisioned it just like outside. He mused, a frown on his 5-year-old face that would have earned him so many schools of, I'm not saying it, kawaii from girls. I said it, okay? Not doing the voice. Kurama too wondered what the reason would be and quickly figured it out. He looked up and thought, perhaps it's because of the seal, he muttered. Naruto looked up at him in confusion written clear on his face. What do you mean? Kurama looked down at Naruto. The seals that keep me inside you. Naruto, if it was only you, you would have done absolute control over your mindscape, but since I am here as well, the control gets divided equally. However, control on my side is restricted because of the seal. The absence of the sun or the moon that you envisioned could signify that this place is cut off from my senses. It's easier term it in easier terms the outside world, he explained. Naruto processed Kurama's answer. If the seal was restricting Kurama's activity, what do you propose I should do, Kurama? Kurama put his hand under his chin. He could see only one way around this, and if Naruto messed up, it could spell trouble for both of them. But he would try his best to not let that happen. You would have to tear off a very small piece of paper on my collar. Leave the rest to me, Kurama assured him. When Naruto looked a bit hesitant, Kurama told him, "Don't worry, Naruto. You can do it. If something goes wrong, I will take care of it." The reassurance eased any doubt from Naruto's face, and he promptly marched up to Kurama's collar, making sure to tear only the smallest piece of paper. Kurama nodded in satisfaction and approval. He could feel a tiny bit of control get back to him. Just a snap of his fingers and a sun appeared in the sky, lighting up the valley, making it even more beautiful. Naruto smiled at the sight, but it faded at the sight of a cave that he instinctively knew not to go near. He turned back to Kurama, who had an expression of curiosity on his face. "Naruto, what was that wave of energy that exploded from you earlier? And how did you know to change your mindscape?" Naruto gave him an innocent look. "It is my mind, Kurama. I can make anything happen in here." As for the energy wave, his expression turned sheepish and he rubbed the back of his head, reminding him of the boy's mother who had the same habit. It just seemed cooler than simply changing the surrounding in the blink of an eye. This time it was Kurama who gave him a blank look. A sweat drop appeared on the side of his head at the sheepish laugh of his host. He shook his head. It seemed Naruto liked to be a dramatic smartass. He concentrated and nodded in satisfaction. He could now sense chakra signatures of almost the whole village. Once Naruto opened his eyes, Kurama would be able to see as well. "Nevertheless, you have my thanks. Allow me to repay you with something that will come in very handy once you become a shinobi." Kurama smiled, raising a fingernail and very gently touching Naruto's forehead. The nail shined for a moment and then faded back. Naruto raised an eyebrow. "What was that?" Kurama smiled mysteriously. "Why don't you discover it yourself? I can feel several chakra signatures closing in on you. Time for you to open your eyes, Naruto." Naruto nodded and turned to leave, but froze. He slowly turned around and smiled embarrassedly. "How do I leave?" Kurama had to squish the urge to facepalm. To squash the face to squash the urge to facepalm. It seemed that Naruto had his moments of stupidity every now and then. "Just jump into the water, fish cake," he said exasperatedly. Naruto frowned at fish cake but nodded, and with a leap that was impossible for any child his age, jumped into the water. Kurama shook his head, amused. It was only because Naruto was in his own mind that he was able to do so. Perhaps I should have told him that he could get out with just a thought, he mused. Then he removed the thought immediately. Nah, it's too much fun messing with him. Naruto opened his eyes slowly with a hurry. He was thinking about what gift Kurama gave him when he felt it, like someone was coming his way, slowly turning his head around, face paling at the side. Dozens of people, knives, clubs, crowbars in hand, excited expressions on their faces, shouting, "Today is the day you die, demon! We will finish what the Yandere started and we will avenge him." Naruto's expressions had turned utterly horrified. There was only one way to get off the monument without falling splat on the pavement, outrun and outmaneuver the mob. He wasted no time. He kept up to his feet and immediately started running in a perpendicular direction to the mob. Since he had been running regularly for 1 year, he had built up some pretty good speed and endurance. His plan was to take a wide arc around the mob, and as soon as it was behind him, hightail it into the streets where he could lose them. He took off into the forest, the mob following him closely. As he began to cut an arc around the mob, hairs on the back of his neck stood up, a clear sign of danger. However, unlike before, when he could only detect danger, this time he could feel the direction of the weapon was coming from. Naruto was an imaginative child. From where he had developed his imagination, no one knew. But there was one thing about his imagination that even he knew was not normal. His body had the most unnatural and peculiar ability of following the commands of his mind down to a T. As soon as he had sensed the knife speeding at him, he thought of only one escape scenario, and his body followed it as it did before several times, just not in a life and death scenario. He jumped, a body in the air, rotating like a screwdriver, the knives going under him, missing him by just an inch. He rolled on the ground to soften his landing and continued running away, successfully getting the mob behind him and the road in front of him. He managed to get to the streets, where he purposely chose the market street where he could lose them. He knew the civilians could not do the tricks that he could. He vaulted neatly over several carts without losing momentum, each time increasing the gap between him and the mob. He turned left at an intersection and jumped up a wall, hanging on the other side until he was sure the sounds of the mob faded away. He jumped back on the road. He took a moment to catch a breath. If he was not mistaken, oh my god. If he was not mistaken, he had run at full speed for close to 3 minutes. Impressive for a 5-year-old. Though, can I do that? I don't know. I mean, I jog for like an hour. I don't run. The familiar voice of Kurama sounded in his head. Naruto looked surprised for a moment, but then shook his head. It was probably because of the change that he had done to the seal. He also chalked it up to adrenaline that he had run so far and so fast. That was a lot more difficult than he had imagined, but he blamed it on his clothes. An orange jumpsuit stuck out like a sore thumb amongst the masses. It was as if he had struck a piece of paper behind his back saying, "Kill me." The blonde hair wasn't helping either. But then again, he had nothing else to wear. The keepers at the orphanage looked very satisfied when they had given him the jumpsuit. They probably wanted him to be spotted in case he attempted to hide from a mob. Too bad they underestimated him. So deep he was in his musings that he didn't notice he had entered in an area of Konoha no one had taken a stroll in for at least 5 years. He looked when he saw he was standing before the gates of the beautiful mansion. Naruto opened the gates of the mansion. "Let's explore." Wait a minute. I lost where I was. Okay. Before the gates of a beautiful mansion. Naruto opened the gates of the mansion. "Let's explore." Kurama's excited voice sounded in his head. Naruto shook his head. "I would be an idiot to even touch the gate. Can't you see all the seals engraved on it?" Kurama insisted. "Do it. Who knows, you might get a surprise." Naruto frowned at the behavior of the fox, but followed his advice anyway. He placed his hands on the seal of the gate and closed his eyes, as if waiting to be blown up. He didn't notice the seals glowing lightly. He opened his eyes when nothing happened. Tentatively, he pushed the gates, and to his surprise, it opened easily. The seals must be malfunctioning if a strange like if a stranger like me could enter it, he thought. The mansion was beautiful. It was a traditional two-story mansion surrounded by lush green grounds. There was even a small pond with clear water in front of the house. Whoever this house belonged to must be insanely wealthy, he thought with wonder. Money was something that was rarely available to him. He decided not to dwell on it further. As he approached the front door, he began to think it was a bad idea coming here. What if someone spotted him? What if he accidentally activated a trap? He cautiously turned the doorknob, hearing it click open. He opened the door fully, seeing a dark living room with a sofa and comfortable chairs. He turned on the light, surprised that the electricity still flowed in the circuits of the house, but it was all covered in thick layers of dust. The owner has been gone for a long time, but why? He wondered. As he turned in the direction of the fireplace, he stopped short at what he saw. The first thing that caught his eye was the uniquely shaped kunai embedded in the stone slab placed in front of the fireplace. Every shinobi or to-be shinobi worth his or her salt would recognize the tree-prompt kunai. It was the Yandame's kunai. He now knew that this house belonged to the deceased Hokage. Crap! He hadn't just broken into the Yandame's house. Double crap. He was about to turn tail when Kurama's voice sounded in his head. What's that? He turned around again, seeing the portrait above the fireplace for the first time. It was Minato Namikaze, decked out in full Hokage uniform. Man was dripping, baby. Along with a beautiful redhead wearing a high-colored, sleeveless blonde blouse under a long, loose-fitting dress with a wristband on her left wrist and standard shinobi sandals. A medium-sized bulge on her stomach made him realize that she was pregnant, but that was not what caught his eyes. The redhead was waving a peace sign with a very similar grin, the same one he wore whenever his mischievous tendencies surfaced or when he was really happy. Her face was also very similar looking to his own. Her exquisite violet eyes were shaped just like his eyes. With a jolt, the pieces of puzzle he could never solve arranged themselves, forming a long sought-after answer. Blonde hair, azure blue eyes, the familiar grin, same shaped face, identical shaped eyes. He had just found out the identities of his parents. Congratulations, kid. You finally found them. Kurama's smooth voice was softer this time. The end. Chapter 3. There's no title. Okay. I'm gonna end it there, guys. I hope you've enjoyed. Hit that like button, subscribe, comment. I respond to all comments, and I'll see you in the next part. Bye.